Hello, everyone. We are back with another episode of Mining Now. Today, we're featuring Seeq. We're going to discuss who they are. They are gathering data and helping people understand what they're actually looking at. That's a very high level. And of course, Mariana Sandin is going to be on the show and explain what that means, and probably tell me that my way of summarizing was actually maybe not even right. So we're going to cover it. She is the industry principal for mining and metals. We just met a few minutes ago. Mariana, thank you for coming into our studio.
Thank you for having me.
What you don't where are you based out of?
I'm based out of Houston,
Are you
Texas. Yeah. So cool thing about Seeq, we're a fully remote company, so we all work from home in
a
Houston.
fully remote company?
Yes, fully remote.
Wow.
We have a PO box in Seattle, but
Wow.
everyone works from home.
Oh, well, that's nice. And what brings you to Vancouver?
Well, I'm here because I was part of a panel at Digitalization in Mining North America. They had their conference this year here in Vancouver. It was pretty fun yesterday,
Yeah.
and we're here. We're still there today.
You're going, so after you film here, you're heading
Yes,
back
I'm
down?
going back to the conference.
What was your panel specific to?
It was about how to sustain technology for the future and how
Mm-hmm.
to bring people on board with the adoption of technology.
Mm-hmm.
So, very interesting panel. We had a lady from tech,
Oh, did you?
another lady from Nutrien, and another gentleman from another startup company about AI. And so we're all geeking out talking about how
Mm-hmm.
how is technology really empowering people, and I guess that's another way to summarize what Seek does. It's about people empowerment.
What is your you said about geeking out? What sort of is your passion within that space?
Well, I am a chemical engineer,
Okay.
and so I think as a process engineer,
Mm.
right? And I try to make my life easier where I can, and technology is a means to do that, right? So leveraging technology and data, that's really my passion. I've been in the industry for a little bit over 16 years now. I started with a company called OSIsoft that was all about data management, data governance, and this is operational data. So pressures, flows,
Mm.
temperatures, right? That are coming from the field. And now I've been 2 years now at Seek, and this is all about advanced analytics. So really leveraging that data that comes from operations, and then
Mm.
having meaningful insights, storytelling with the information that you have at hand. So
Has it been quite a jump going from gathering the data? So I'm thinking like you're talking about like sensors and things that are gathering in all this data. That's what was your previous role, and you were reading through that essentially, or what was your role? Just to try to understand the progression.
right. So I think when we look at industrial settings, right, there's actually a standard for this, and there is the level 0, which are your sensors, right, what you're
Hmm.
mentioning. Then you have your level 1 or 2, that is your control system. So that
Okay.
is what is actually controlling the machines.
Right.
And then you have a level 3 that lives on a business network where you have your
Mm.
data historians and maybe your MES or your schedulers.
Yeah.
That's where I used to live with my former company.
Mm.
And now at Seek, we are on a higher level, leveraging that information from that level 3 upwards to really condense and create analysis, or contextualize and condition the data so that it's more meaningful when you're looking at it. So I guess that would be the way that I would structure in the
Right.
progression how data is consumed.
Let's talk about our heavy industry tour brought to you by Savannah Equipment, supplying mining equipment worldwide. We are heading to events across North America, Africa, and Australia, and filming episodes on location. Email us at info@crownsman.com to be part of our Crownsman's Heavy Industry World Tour. SafeSite has developed a suite of innovative technologies focused on step change improvements that impacts vertical mining, shaft measurement, underground mapping and survey, mine rescue, and emergency response underground. SafeSite solutions introduce new possibilities in approach and efficiency while keeping every site safer. SafeSite solutions deliver valuable data that can quickly be turned into actionable decision data that allows effective and safe operation. Digital guide alignment will reduce shaft maintenance costs, underground mapping drone technology that removes shadows for 100% accurate reconciliation, and mine rescue drones that extend the reach and range of responders on surface and underground. Visit safesitexp.com for more info. HF Sinclair, which includes the Petro-Canada Lubricants brand, is a proud sponsor of the show. Petro-Canada Lubricants products and services are proven to maximize equipment performance, productivity, and overall savings. From heavy-duty engine oils to hydraulic fluids, ATFs, gear oils, and greases, Petro-Canada Lubricants is committed to delivering innovative solutions that deliver value and keep businesses moving. They have dedicated technical expertise, knowledge, and know-how to help customers in the mining industry operate smoothly with improved equipment reliability and performance, and help support a mining operations ESG goals. Learn more at lubricants.petro-canada.com or contact them at 1-866-335-3369 to arrange a call with one of their technical experts. Okay, so let's give a special thank you to one of our longest sponsors of the show, Savona Equipment. And I'm actually going to hand it over to Jerrod so that he can give you a little bit more info on Savona Equipment.
Yeah, thank you. So I mean, people see them as sponsors, so they'll ask me, kind of who they are, what they are, and just trying to understand the scope of the company. So Savona Equipment is a mining supply company, and they're delivering on the whole equipment supply chain. So everything from the ore processing to underground mining, open pit. They're in hard rock and placer operations. And what they're doing is they're sourcing equipment from all over the world and then delivering it all over the world. Now, they are a Canadian company, so they're based there. But, let's say, they're selling entire ore processing plants. So there might be a plant down in Latin America, and there's a new mine that needs that plant in Africa or somewhere in the U.S. So they're facilitating that entire transactions. But they're also delivering, an individual conveyor or a concentrator or a pump package or just an electrical package. So it really is the whole gambit of the mining equipment supply chain.
Oh, that's great then. Well, then you definitely have to check them out. If you're looking for mining equipment, visit them at savonaequipment.com, where you will find more equipment every day.
That next level of that you're at now and that Seeq is delivering, how prevalent is that in the industry now? Is that commonplace, or has that become or is that still sort of a new frontier in the industry?
I think there is some progress done, especially with the bigger players in the industry. But for those that have not invest in technology, especially in digital technologies, right? We're talking about software, operational, real-time, time series kind of
Yeah.
data. For those that have not made the investments, they might still be, just looking at the HMIs from a control system. And I've talked to people that are there, but then they tell me, oh, I want to have a predictive maintenance program. But that is not possible if you don't have the history of the data or a
Right.
good data set to work with and
Yeah.
create the models that are going to predict or forecast conditions
Yeah.
into the future. I wouldn't say the majority are there. I think there are the few companies.
There's a few that have kind of really onboarded it
Right.
fully.
But,
Yeah.
but for the most part, people do have data. They have a collection of data somewhere. They haven't really quite got into advanced analytics. And I think because, as process engineers, we are trained to do your analysis, and you might do it in a spreadsheet, right? And that's very time consuming. And as a process engineers, you're in firefighting mode. There's always something in the plant you have to run. You don't really have the time to sit down and clean the data and sift through it to find what you're looking for. And that's what Seeq brings into the table, really.
It like as in trying to remove that having to go through
Right.
that data sort of
Right.
piece by piece.
Yes. And make it easier to create the calculations and have the analytics at hand to really do a multivariate model, right? That can help a very complex problem like finding the energy consumption at a grinding system, right? And that can be very complex if you want to do it by hand or if you want to code it. But if you have the right tools to drag and drop, okay, let's use this, let's see what the correlation looks like, then it becomes a very easy task and you have time to move on to something.
I saw that you can integrate, and correct me if I'm wrong, you can integrate with a lot of the platforms, like the
Yeah.
Aspentech, they've been on our show
Right.
several times, and hopefully will come on again soon, that you're able to integrate really well with those platforms. I saw the GE one is on
Right.
there, and now, of course, it's slipping my mind the other ones. There was a
Right.
list of about 5 or 6
Right.
really, really common ones that are in the industry.
Yeah, yeah. So I would say our integration, and we have live connections to the system. So the Pi system is one that we hear a lot. IP21 from Aspentech is another one. Ignition from GE, and there are some other sources. So there are lab systems,
Mm.
right? That you want to have those lab signals to correlate with your operational data. Um, Maintenance systems that can tell you when was the last state of maintenance of a critical asset, right? Because you want to have
Mm-hmm.
that information if you're, again, predictive maintenance. You need that kind of information.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Schedulers. In some cases, people actually bring in financial information
Mm.
when they want to use it as an input or have it in a dashboard that they can put together. Um, so yeah, if I'm not mistaken, we have over 40 different connectors that we
Wow.
can leverage and have access to different data sources. Now, one thing that it's new that I'm seeing more is connecting from data from the cloud.
Mm.
So Microsoft, AWS, even Aviva, they have cloud databases
Mm.
where companies are starting to put together hybrid environments where they have on-prem information that is critical for operations, and that's great. But at the same time, they have a subset or some information going into the cloud so that they can do the really fancy analysis on top,
Mm.
right? And then returning some of that information back into the sites. So being able to connect to on-prem and cloud, that's something that we are working pretty much on a daily basis with most of our customers, because there is the two kind of data that needs to be merged.
Mining companies around the world rely on Cal Tire's Mining Tire Group for innovative tire management and supply. Whether they're making their work safer and more efficient, reducing total cost of ownership, or helping customers improve sustainability, Cal Tire unlocks opportunity and drives positive change. To learn about their award winning repair technology, tire management tools, recycling solution, and TOMS, their productivity driven tire and operations management system, visit them at caltiremining.com. The Maintenance, Engineering, and Reliability Mine Operations Conference and Trade Show, MEMO, is back in Saskatoon September 17th to 20th. Join us for live interaction with maintenance engineers and mine operators. This year, the theme of MEMO 2023, The Next Level, reflects the significant changes to the industry in the past few years. Registrations are open. Visit memo2023.cim.org to register and explore sponsorship and exhibit opportunities. PowerZone carries a massive inventory of pumps, engines, generators, and compressors. However, they don't stop there. They combine imagination with world-class engineering. They detail the entire process to every customer. Their pump package testing facility ensures your equipment is landing on-site, ready to work. That is PowerZone. Start with inventory, develop with imagination, deliver with integrity, and it's all at powerzone.com. That is PowerZone.
As we're talking, it stands out to me, and we've had a lot of discussions in the last, probably over the last 20 episodes. A lot of them have been about collecting data, and I'm one thing I'm trying to get to is the feeling that I get when we're trying to onboard something, and so, and I know other people get it too. Is one, you have to pick out what is the best route to take, but also making sense of as it's evolving. It's like you do something today that almost doesn't feel like it's going to be relevant tomorrow because it's changing so quickly, and it's clearly going the right direction.
Right.
And I don't think anybody, I mean, there's probably one person out there that's fighting against that, but most people are sort of on board. They understand it needs to go that way. A mine, you don't do predictive maintenance on your ball mill and it shuts
Right.
down. I mean, it can't happen. Um, but how what do you think the mindset of a company that let's say they're onboarding Seek? We'll go specifically to you. They
Right.
want to onboard. What should their mindset be going into it? What do they need to be prepared to do from their standpoint? Because we talk so much about what can be delivered, but from their
Right.
standpoint, what do they need to prepare so that they can maximize the value?
Yeah, that is a great question because And it's not a question about technology, because I think that's the easy part.
Yeah.
We know that the software works, it delivers value, um, it plays nicely with the ecosystem that is at hand. So as things evolve, Seek can be there to support that evolution. So
Mhm.
I think the technology part is the easy part.
Mm.
But organizationally speaking, we need, what I've seen is that the most successful customers that we have
Mm.
are those that are committed to empowering their workforce and
Mm.
upskilling their workforce. Because one of the things that we are seeing, going back to my process engineer hat or heart, the role is changing. And actually, this morning, somebody said, now we should have a new title. It should be a digital process engineer.
Mm.
And I couldn't agree more. There are new tools, modern ways to do all tasks that are much more efficient and that help to the bottom line of the company. But with those modern tools, you need to have different skills. So, not everyone is a data scientist, and it doesn't mean that every engineer needs to be a data scientist
Mm.
today, but they need to have a good baseline of analytics and mathematical
Mm.
concepts to be able to use the modern tools and do something
Right.
meaningful with it, right? So, if companies are committed to that transition and empowerment and upskilling of their workforce,
Mm.
then they're going to be successful. And that's what I've seen with our customers.
So are you seeing then that clients though that they'll have to, when you say upscale, that they're actually when they're onboarding, are they needing to provide another level of training to, let's say it's a process engineer or a chemical engineer?
Mhm.
Now, that do you see cases where they're not prepared to be able to properly leverage the data or
Yeah.
even provide you with the right data because they haven't had that additional training
Right.
that's needed?
Yeah. And part of our what Seek does, we provide that kind of training.
Oh, you actually
So
providing
so it's part of
hands-on.
our onboarding.
Oh,
It's
okay.
part of our onboarding program, right? So when customers start using Seek, it's not just the software and here you go
Right.
at it. It's we actually walk with them, and there is a learning portion that needs to happen, and it's designed based on how people are going to use the software, right? So if you are a data scientist and you live and breathe Python, we have a course that is okay, how do you leverage Python and Seek and create great machine learning models or integrate with third
Like
party
it's an
systems?
actual course that you go through like
Right.
modules
Yeah.
and
Yeah, you go through modules and it's self-paced and but it's based on the kind of experience or the kind of user that you are. So
mm,
if you're a process engineer, there is a process engineer course, and
mm,
the first part is 9 hours, so it's also not weeks and weeks and weeks of
right.
learning. Um, but we're striving to teach our customers and our users to think, okay, so you're an expert at your process. You know exactly how the plant is running, or at least the segment of the plant that you work in. You know how that runs.
Right.
Now let's look at what kind of problems you're trying to solve, and we're gonna teach the mathematics behind it to solve those problems.
Mm.
And then it's all point and click configuring within our platform.
So in a way, then it needs to be when you are onboarding, you're also developing. Uh, uh, I'll say it in very layman terms, but from what I'm hearing, is you're actually developing mathematical equations that need to connect to your system specific to that operation.
Well, those the mathematics behind it are already in the software.
Okay.
So we don't need to create them. They just need to select the right tool for the problem that they want to solve.
Right. Okay. So that is already built in.
Yeah.
Okay. For a second, I thought you were saying they need to. I was like, oh, they need to actually like.
No, no,
No.
no. But we teach them. For instance, if you in operations, no signals are very noisy. It's just the nature of it. It's very noisy. There is vibration. There are different samplings, right? So it needs to be cleansed. It needs to be smooth. Like when is a good time to use an average versus a derivative,
Right, you're talking
right?
about that. You said it was like that level one, that where
Right.
it's actually originally coming from the sensor, the actual physical wave things that they're reading
Right.
into.
But when
Yeah,
you look at it, it's just a wiggly line,
yeah,
right? And very experienced engineers understand what they're looking at in that
right,
wiggly line,
yeah,
right? One of the challenges today in the industry is very experienced engineers are either leaving the workforce, or there are new engineers coming in that don't
Well,
have that
that was
experience.
exactly where I was going to take this.
Right.
Is that there is the gap of one new? Well, I'll frame it as this. Let's start with the youth. People coming into the industry, are they being properly equipped in university to have? Let's say a chemical engineer.
Mhm.
Are they doing the same program they were doing 20 years ago, or are the universities getting them up to date
Right.
so that they can use these
Right.
softwares and these programs?
Right, right. And that is a good question. And I think it depends,
Mm.
right? I can talk from my experience. I was trained in Fortran, and that dates me, in Visual Basic, right?
They don't mean anything to me actually, so it doesn't.
Okay, well,
Probably to the
very,
audience,
very,
they'd know.
very, very old uh, methods of coding. And that's how I learned, right?
Mhm.
But even with our interns, they come and they already know Python, right?
Right.
So
Okay.
it's a language that they know and they're comfortable in. I would assume that now the new chemical engineers graduating, they have that Python comfort zone that they can use.
Mhm.
I mean, you can even use ChatGPT to start coding, right?
Yeah.
And I think the youth is definitely more comfortable in a coding environment
Right.
that people that have been in the industry for a while.
Yeah.
Um, and it doesn't mean that everyone needs to be a hacker. I mean, you don't need to,
Yeah.
but we want to empower all engineers in regardless of where they are, to really leverage analytical tools at their hands.
Yeah.
So there is a version of Seek that is all low code or no code at all that they can use. But if they like doing coding, they can use the Python notebook that we support.
I brought this up on other shows as well, and what keeps standing out to me when these discussions are the leveraging of talent on
Mm-hmm.
multiple sites, and like you Seek is fully remote. Like
Yep.
people are working, but there's still mine sites where people have to go on
Yep.
site, and that. Are you seeing that opportunity where you've got an experienced engineer now? I'll paint a fictitious scenario where you've got new engineers to the industry. They know Python. They're involved in the program. They can facilitate it quite
Mm-hmm.
easily. But now you've got that someone with experience. They understand the actual operation
Right.
of the mine at a higher level. But they don't need to be at the three different sites that the
Mm-hmm.
mining company owns.
Mm-hmm.
Are you seeing more of that? That that now something like Seek allows you to leverage off one person's experience and talent and distribute that to multiple sites.
Yes, yes. And we actually have a customer. I cannot mention their name,
Oh, that's not fun.
but I know,
I
I
understand.
know. But the concept, and you probably heard about this, a remote operating
Hmm.
centers or
Yes.
IROCs, right? Um, that those centers, for this particular customer, said they have three distributed around the world, so they
Hmm.
can have that 24-hour coverage to
Yeah.
support their mails,
Yeah.
and they're using Seek, right?
Wow.
And it's being able to see data in real time, be able to do the analytics. If they see something, calling to the site like, "Hey, are you guys seeing the same thing that we're looking at here?
Right.
Go check it out." So
Yeah.
yeah, then it becomes an extension of the
Yeah.
operations at the mills.
And we say that casually, now, but 20 years ago that
Yeah,
didn't exist.
yeah.
Like that version of that just didn't. And where do you see it going? Again, well, we'll keep it specifically with Seek. Where can it get to? Like
Mm,
what is the I mean, predicting the future is a bit of a
right,
crazy thing to try to do.
right.
But do you see certain steps that are going to get developed even within Seek? What's the next level and the next
Mhm.
level that's going to be delivered to clients?
Yeah. Well, I think things are definitely gonna get more prescriptive, more predictive. So machine learning and AI is here to stay,
Mhm.
right? So harnessing the power of that technology more,
Yeah.
it's gonna become more prevalent, and closing the loop, right? So how do we get those insights and put it back into operations without that human intervention, but
Mm.
with human oversight, right? Because we are talking, really big assets moving tons of ore, water, and you have to be safe when
Mhm.
you're operating in those environments. So reducing the manual intervention of the insights from the advanced analysis, but always with that human oversight and that human augmentation. That's what I see happening in the future. The other thing that our customers are focusing today, and that I expect to see in the very short term, it's a focus on the sustainability aspect of things, right? So not only optimizing operations, but adding in new technology to make the process cleaner, to have less emissions, to have better water recovery, to eliminate waste as much as you can.
Yeah. Well,
Um,
mining is still. I mean, I've heard the stats. It's. I've looked through them and I can't remember them off the top of my head, but the amount of actual like product that's taken out of the
mhm.
ore compared to what is actually
Right,
waste it's
right.
staggering, like
Yeah, yeah,
staggering. Yeah,
yeah.
which is not like that in like the oil and gas sector. Let's say
Right,
you're taking out the bulk of the product you take out is the product that you're
right.
using, whereas in mining it is
It's
not
not.
that at all.
Yeah, yeah. There is a lot of work to get a couple of ounces of gold.
Yeah. Do you see and where what kind of are you do you have and I understand I was joking about it, but I understand with NDAs and that you can't say, oh yeah, this client got 50% returns and all
Right.
that sort of stuff. But do you have metrics that when someone onboards it and they train their staff and they go through that onboarding process and full implementation, do you have numbers that say, no, these are the actual results. This is what you can gain from
Yeah.
it.
Yeah. Well, I do have one use case that I can actually talk
Oh,
about
well, there
because
we
they
go.
present it and it's public. You can
Oh,
find it
there
on,
you go.
on the
Good.
internet. And this is a mine. It's the Caserones mine down in Chile.
Okay.
So low ore grade. So back to your point of you need
Mm,
tons and tons of ore to create a few tons of copper. That's their situation.
hmm
And what they did, they already had that level 3 infrastructure of data they were collecting, and they had a few years of data at their hand, but it was not organized.
mm,
So first they organized it, created a digital twin, if you may, and then they added Seek on top of that digital twin to start calculating the efficiencies of different segments
mm.
of the mine. So the grinded section, flotation, the
Yeah.
tailings, and calculating the net recovery rate of copper
Mm,
at the flotation based on the variables of the grinding. So with that visibility, they were able to pass a data set to a simulator that then will educate them to these are the good ranges of operations that you
mm.
have in the mine.
Yeah.
And they pass that information down to the operators. So now the operator is looking, well, am I running my segment of my process within those operating ranges?
Mm,
And and when they did that, in that period of time, they actually achieve a higher net recovery rate and a much larger recovery of water in the tailings. So it was about 4% of net recovery rate of copper,
mm,
which is huge. I mean,
mhm.
if and you guys can do the numbers. I don't want to put dollars in their mouths,
Yeah.
but if you look at the mine capacity and the cost of copper, this is millions of dollars,
Mhm.
right? Just by having a better visibility and a better um, hold on the operating ranges. But that also translates to better water recovery,
Mm,
right? Because now your tailings, they don't have as much waste. It's
right.
easier to extract the water and put it back into the grinding system.
So that also becomes your ESG
Right,
work
right,
and
right,
yeah.
right. And it was over 1,000 tons of water per hour in a place where you have no water.
Wow.
So that was I think that was really really um, interesting, and it's a simple solution to a very big problem
Mm.
at the mine, right? But again, it's with working with the process engineers, working with the operators, having that full visibility, and management that is committed at using data to make decisions.
You talked about you said the level 1 is where the actual sensor is,
Hmm.
right? And then level 2 is what?
The control systems.
The control
So
of actually
right,
deciding what is happening.
right. So that's yeah,
And then
that's connected.
3 is gathering the data
Right,
and then storing it.
right,
And then level 4 is making sort of analyzing it AI systems
right,
to distribute it out and suggest.
right, right. Yeah.
Um, those 4 levels, how challenging is it? Then, and again, I'm speaking on behalf of sort of as a client from a client perspective. How challenging is it? You said that took them. They had 3 years of data, so I would
Yeah.
guess they'd probably started then probably implementation 5 to 7 years before that. then they full implementation of those sensors, the different levels, and then they onboarded you. What was that process like from the time that they onboarded Seeq before they could make those decisions?
Okay. I really do not know how long they've been collecting data. It might have been from day one. So
Right.
I really don't know if it was only 3 years of time or if 3 years of data was available. But from the time that they started leveraging Seek and putting together the analysis, and I know that they work with a consultant too,
Mm-hmm.
right, to instruct them a little bit, like these
Right.
are the kinds of models, this is what you
Yeah.
would like to do. It took them a few months to get that done, to have those models ready, to have those
From
KPIs.
onboarding?
Yeah,
Oh
from
wow. So not very long. No,
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 not at
okay.
all. No, no. When we get involved with a client and we start working with them, our deployment, we measure it in terms of hours, use case, use case um, development or use case implementation. It's a matter of weeks,
Mm-hmm.
right? So it's not. These are not multi-year kind of projects
Right. Okay.
that are necessary because one, I think the technology is enabling to make it easy, but two is we really partner with the subject matter experts at the site, so they already know what the problems are. They have the knowledge of, this is the way that I want to contextualize my data. um, so yeah, it's an easier technical problem that what you may think.
Especially once they've had all
Right,
those layers
especially
built.
when the infrastructure is already in place, right?
Right.
So if they don't have a data infrastructure, then there's only so much we can do
Right.
with
Yeah.
manual entries. Yeah.
I've tried to come up with the questions that I guess I would have. But to close off the interview, what are a couple common questions, either pre-onboarding, during onboarding, or even post, that
Hmm.
when they're trying to then, okay, where do we go from here? We've got 4%. What are we doing for the next 18 months?
Right.
What are in those three buckets? What are some common or a common question each of those three that the clients are asking, or the information that they need
Right.
from you?
Well, I think one of the things that our customers struggle the most is with prioritizing the effort, right? There's
Mm,
only so much time
yeah.
a person has in the day, and I mean, there are clients that have 100 projects just on conveyors, right? So how do you
Hmm.
prioritize that? Um, but I think one of the things, going back to my comment about the commitment of empowering and upskilling the workforce, it's good to have a good idea of the challenges and the potential return of
Mm,
solving that challenge that can help us prioritize. But the other thing too is if we start thinking more as an agile company, right? Maybe you finish a project and you fail, but there were a lot of learning experiences out of it, and that's still a successful project. So um, when you're prioritizing, even if you have a use case that fails, it's better that you're failing quickly, right? But you're
hmm.
learning and you're growing, and then when you take the next use case, then you're gonna see an easier adoption, quicker
Mm.
returns, and whatnot. And that should help with the prioritization and the sustainment of leveraging data.
Are you do you when you're talking to clients, do you usually get them at the point, there's two different types of clients. There's well, it's probably more than two, but there's people that need exposure, and we have this even on our show. There's people that want exposure, and then they just need new clients. They don't have enough. And then there's companies that have a ton of clients,
Mm-hmm.
and they just don't stop. And I won't pick out any that's within your space. So I'll use an example of Cal Tire, who's been on the
Okay.
show and sponsored episodes. They are such a powerhouse within the industry, and they just keep coming on and they keep pushing. They go to events and they're out. Their staff is friendly. There's never something good enough. They always
Mm-hmm.
want to do better within the
Yeah.
industry, and it's quite inspiring to watch a company like that work. And I'm not picking on any of your clients, but do do you get called most of the time when there's a problem, when they're trying to just make something happen, or is a lot of the top clients, they're going, no, we're doing good, we want to do even better?
Mm-hmm.
And they're two very distinct approaches, because some
Yeah.
clients you just get a call when something's wrong, and
Right.
then there's ones that when something's right they push even harder,
Yeah.
which is always a lot of fun. Um, and I'm just wondering how you sort of approach, maybe even how you approach those two types of clients.
Yeah, yeah, and I think you're right. And so there are those two, and everything in between,
Everything in between.
right?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, and I think we have those clients for the most part. Our clients, because they are more advanced in
Mm,
their adoption of digital technologies, I
right.
would say they are the ones that are always pushing
That
for.
that
I want to
next
do
level.
more. I
Yes.
want to learn more. I have this, but it's not good enough. How can I make it
Half
better?
the industry is jealous of you in that
Yeah.
space. 'Cause they're like, that's not how we get started. But yeah, no,
Yeah.
that's great though.
Yeah, so most of our clients are in that space. There are a few that, they either not, don't have the time, don't have the resources, that they understand digital technologies are important, but they just haven't make it a strategy for success.
Yeah.
So that's why it's more difficult with them. And we meet people where they are, right?
Yeah.
So at Seek, it's not just about the software. I talked a little bit about our learning program,
Mm-hmm.
but we also have customer success managers that are
Mm-hmm.
actually assigned to the different clients.
Right.
And we work with them on a regular basis. Like, okay, what are you working on? What are the good lessons learned? What are the value that you're getting out of the software, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because we want to make sure they're being successful. And that's how we anticipate and prepare a roadmap with them. Like, okay, this is where we are now. This is where we can be in 12 months. This is where we can be in 18 months, right? And then constantly we are reviewing that plan with them.
I would guess it also there's a lot of and we can wrap up with this, but I think it's an important thing to touch on is you mentioned the conveyor systems. Let's
Mm-hmm.
say get to a client that, I mean, I'm just trying to think of all the different technology, just the sensors alone that we've had
Yeah.
on the show. Sensors on the bucket, sensors on the separators, sensors on the conveyor system. I mean,
Right.
it just goes on. Sensors in the actual in the explosives,
Right. And there
you know,
are more coming.
and more coming. Um, do you see, as the projects evolve, that they've maybe done a really nice job over here, but maybe their conveyor system doesn't have the data collecting? So as they see what you can do with this section of data, then they start to adopt the next stream. Are you ever involved in recommending to say, hey, so you've done it here on your ore processing, now you can do it on your conveying, and sort of guiding them towards the next steps that they need to do to be able to leverage what you offer?
Yeah. We don't really recommend, for instance, any particular vendor of sensors because that's not our expertise really.
Right,
Our expertise is consuming the data those sensors provide.
right.
But one thing that we found, and actually a customer, they presented at our users conference at early May, and one of the things that they did or they found out was um, they were working on an APC validation project using Seeq as part of that validation, but they found out that they were having issues with the bearings and in the loading
Mm,
of the mill, and so they justified that finding to provide technology and
mm.
new sensors and fixing what needed to be
Right.
fixed, right? Based on the findings that they found
Yeah,
that
that's
they had
probably
with
actually a
Seek,
good explanation of what I was more trying to ask. Is it
right?
sort of highlights, oh, this could be done.
Right.
We're missing, we've got a gap here.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, definitely, definitely. And I think that happens more times than not. That they find, okay, I was looking at this, but oh, now you have highlighted there is something not working here, and I cannot get better unless I fix that.
Yeah. Just before I let you go, I'm interested just to wrap up with your career and being in this position, and then sort of what did you start when you fresh out of university? We'll
Uh
go
huh.
with there. What did you think your career was going to be like, and then ending up here doing this? This is quite an
Yeah.
interesting position that you have. What was sort of your vision of what your career would end up being, and what did it end up being?
Yeah, that well, it was definitely not. I don't think there was a career path in chemical engineering that will take me to industry principal for
No,
my
it didn't really
own,
exist. Yeah.
right? Like there was not that. But I think one thing that has helped me was really my passion for solving problems
Mm,
within different industrial settings, and that's where the chemical engineering comes from, right? Or comes in. Uh, Working in industrial settings, I love it, and then very early on, I started working with simulations and created digital twins almost 20 years ago.
mm,
And that's how I got into this space. And as things evolved, my career evolved with it.
Hmm.
So, and that's how I'm here. And I think following what really intrigues you and makes you happy, that helped.
I'm curious if that got developed. Was that in high school? When I was in high school, I wanted to get the work done so I could move on. Of course, I regret that now. Now I wish I had. I mean, free education. I wish I had just been all in on it. But e- how early on did that sort of desire to solve problems? Did you sort of see, oh, I've got this. There's 10 kids here, and I'm the kid that wants to sit here and solve this problem.
Yeah.
It's a unique. I mean, there's other people like that, but it is unique among the vast majority of people. They
Yeah.
don't want to. They just kind of want the answer.
Yeah.
So, when did you sort of know that you had that?
Oh, that is a very good question. I don't know. I think probably from uh, just watching my dad fixing things in the house and
Mm.
helping him,
You enjoyed that,
and I enjoyed that.
yeah.
Yeah.
And then so when you got to like, how did you decide that I'm going to be going
Good
into chemical?
engineer. Well,
Yeah.
as a good engineer, I did my research and look at spreadsheets and just start looking at, well, what are the different scenarios, right, for a career, and
Mm.
which field was gonna give me the most options for a job
Mm.
and for a good paid job,
Right.
right?
Yeah.
So that's really what it stirred me. What are the job options? Which ones are paying more at the time when I did it? And that
Right.
was in high school.
Right.
So, and that's when I made a decision. Okay, chemical engineering sounds challenging, but I might be able to pull it off.
Yeah.
And I did, and then I got into the software industry.
Within university or post.
That was just finishing right after I graduated.
Mm.
I remember meeting people at conferences
Mhm.
and some of my classes, the ones that intrigued me the most was, for instance, simulation. We had a
Right.
simulation class, and I was like, oh my goodness, I can do all this other programming in Fortran and Visual Basic. I can do it much easier with a simulation program, and I
Yeah.
just love that. Um, so I met people in the software industry, and they gave me an opportunity to join. And it's software for industrials, which is kind of marrying
Mm-hmm.
the both things that I like the most.
And what when with Seeq that you just been with them 2 years? You said?
2 years now.
2 years. What has sort of been the exciting thing of now being part of this? I guess that fourth level that you're
Yeah,
at now.
yeah. So definitely still working within the industry and solving more complex problems in a more sophisticated way
Mm.
of using the data that, for 15 years I was telling them it was good to collect.
Yeah, right. Yeah. And now you're actually
Yeah,
getting to redistribute it out in a whole
yeah.
new way. So it's very exciting, Mariana. Thank you very much for coming on the show and coming. I mean, you were in Vancouver, right? So
Yes.
you came here and actually taking the time to be in. I'm not knocking the remote ones, but it's so fun when people actually are in the studio. You can take your time and it's like more like
Yeah.
a conversation rather than usually I have a big screen here in place of a human.
Yeah.
So it's very nice. So thank you for coming in.
Yeah, thank you for inviting me. This was great.
And thank you everybody for watching. We've got, of course, we'll have links to Seeq and like Mariana's LinkedIn and everything, so you can connect with her. Thank you very much for watching. We will see you on the next episode of Mining Now.